I'm gonna go ahead and let him in.
Hey Eric, how's it
And you can
going?
go ahead
Hey,
and
Dennis.
into presentation.
So
Here
we're
we go.
missing, what's her name?
Brenda?
Brenda.
Brenda, yeah. She just emailed me. I think she's just confused about where to go. We talked about it yesterday. Thought we were square.
Right.
I can totally
Yeah.
start, we can let people in and I can start talking and hopefully she'll be able to, hang on.
Did you send her the sched link and the password?
She says she's waiting for the host to let her in.
Is she under a different name?
You see her?
No, is she under a different name?
Mm-mm.
I wonder if she's in this room.
She says she just clicked the yellow button again and says it says the host will let her in. She needs the password.
Well, she needs the link to the sched. She needs the link to the sched, which is googlecamp2021.sched.com.
Right.
And then the password is googlecamp2021. And then she needs to find your session and the Zoom link will be in the sched under that session. But because there's no Brenda in this session yet.
Okay, hang on.
Sure, go ahead, friend.
They say they can't see you.
N-I-E-V-E-S.
So she must be in a different session.
Dennis, could I ask you a big favor?
Yeah.
Do you think you could be in contact, in touch with Brenda by email while I maybe get started?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. Do you know her email?
I still apologize.
I actually have her. I can give you her phone number too if you'd rather text.
So right now when you log in, I'll go ahead and add you.
That might be easier. Yeah, what is her number?
Her phone number?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 second, I'll give it to you. Why isn't it?
Can you just tell everyone they're starting?
Oh, I only have her, hang on, sorry. Hang on 1 second. She says she's just waiting for the host to let her in. So maybe by email would be better. Dennis, can you do that?
Let's just go admit all now. We're going to let everybody in the room, Eric.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because if she happens to be there, I don't know. I mean, we don't see her name.
Do you think you can be trying to get in touch with her, Dennis?
Yeah, I can email her.
That'd be great.
I have her phone number. Yeah.
I'm trying to look for her phone number, but I guess I'd probably better start, huh?
Yeah, better start.
I'm here. Good morning.
Oh,
Sorry.
Brenda! Yay! Awesome. Sorry for the.
I apologize.
There's Brenda.
Take a deep breath.
And I'm using two computers. I'm still waiting for someone to let me in, but I'm glad that I'm in. Thank you. Sorry for the.
Yay! Glad you're here, Brenda. Good. I don't have to. All right. So I was gearing up for doing the whole thing maybe on my own, but I was more worried about what you'd be going through, just sitting over there wondering what's going on.
I know I'm here, but we can get started.
So is everybody in the room now?
Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Okay. So Brenda, I'll go ahead and start. You take a deep breath. Get yourself.
I'm good. Yes.
You're good to go? Okay.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Hi. We were having some trouble just logging into the meeting this morning, but I'm so glad you're all here. Hope your summer is going really well. We have what we think could be an informative and interesting presentation for you today about student portfolios and what they could be. if you use them in maybe the ways that we outlined today. So we're going to jump right into it. The bit.ly, if you'd rather split your screen and have your own presentation open instead of watching my screen I'm presenting right now, you can follow the bit.ly at the bottom there, the main page. So my name is Eric Anderson. I teach at the Pinacate Middle School. I've been teaching for 15 years. I'm starting my 16th. I taught math for 9 years, and I'm very grateful that I got a second lease on life, so to speak, where I got a chance to teach computer science. And I've been doing that for the last 7 years. I've been loving it. I teach a full 2-year curriculum that's different for 7th and 8th grade. And so it's a full middle school CTE pathway that leads into bigger and better things at the high schools. So, and there's my Twitter handle. And then this is my partner.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brenda Nieves. I work with Eric at the same middle school, Pinacate Middle School. This is going to be my 10th year. I'm going into my 10th year teaching. I have taught ELD. I was in a bilingual program for in a middle school for 6 years, teaching ELA, ELD, and then history, US history in Spanish. And I'm excited to be here and just to share this wonderful tool that not only can help students to develop a lot of skills, but also it's a wonderful tool for teachers and all stakeholders.
So our goal today is to present, and now we've missed out on at least 5 minutes. So our goal, we're going to try and keep this as short as we can, hopefully no longer than a half an hour, so we have time at the end to play around with the new Google Sites, which is the main tool that we both use for student portfolios, and then also to answer questions and have discussion as much as possible in those last 10, 15 minutes. So away we go. Let's hit it. This is how the presentation is organized. We're going to start off with a working man's definition of student portfolios. What are they? We're going to show you a couple of examples that we pulled from our own students from last year. We're going to also do the same thing for social emotional learning. It's quite the buzzword these days. It's going to be probably even more so next year as students come back with a lot of mental health needs and mental health issues. Social emotional learning is going to be big on the horizon for professional development for a lot of districts. So we're going to talk about those two things first.
And we're also going to talk about the benefits for all stakeholders, not only students, but teachers, parents, paraeducators, admin. I think they're going to be very happy. And special events like back to school night, teacher parent conferences. And then at the end, we are planning to have time for questions, but also time for you guys to explore Google Sites, and maybe we can help you to get started and create your first maybe digital portfolio. And also, if some of you guys have already used Google Sites for digital portfolio, maybe you can share out your experience.
Yeah, that's one point I would like to just jump in and emphasize now is that we recognize and realize that many of you may have been using this idea of student portfolios. Maybe you use a different tool. We'd love to hear about that. Maybe you've been using Google Sites. So please feel free to enrich our presentation with your valuable experience. Thank you so much. All right, so first section presentation, let's talk about what a digital student portfolio is. Several important factors. Well, first of all, it's student created. Okay, so this is nothing that we do for the students. As a matter of fact, teachers actually do very little except set up the template that students might use and then fill with all of their own content. That's very, very important, right? Another thing that's very important, especially in the way we look at it, and we're trying to connect student portfolios to social emotional learning. And so it's very important that portfolios have a reflective component, that students are reflecting on what they're learning, how they're learning, and what to do with their learning. And sort of bridging a portfolio with a learning diary, so to speak. So they are describing and writing about their learning process. At its core, a student portfolio this is a display for their learning. It displays the evidence of their learning. And so especially a digital portfolio is very handy these days, especially now that we're all on the other side of at least a year, probably, of distance learning. We all had to, some degree, interact with our students online and get them to submit their work online. And so now's a ripe time for jumping into digital portfolios, because we've been practicing gathering digital evidence of their work. And then finally, once a student portfolio has been created and maintained, hypothetically for many, many years, which is possible, we're going to talk about that, students have something that they can look back on and continue learning about themselves by reflecting on what they've written about and what they've put into their portfolio.
So here are some examples from students. So I teach Spanish, so the ones that I'm going to show you, students, their evidence of learning is in Spanish. I have been using, I really used portfolios, sorry, it's my dog, this school year, well, last school year during distance learning, and I'm planning to use them even more. But if you don't mind, Eric, just clicking on the first, Alicia. So
just want to jump in there, Brenda. The one, hoping that for everybody who accesses this presentation and wants to revisit these examples, that we tried, I think, set the sharing properties appropriately so you can get into them.
Thank you, Eric. Yes. So if you notice, this is a 7th grader, very first time using Google Sites. This would be like the first page. It was just about them, the goals for the school year. So very simple. And then if you go to the left-hand side, the 3 bars, you can just click on it, and then you can see what else that student included. But yeah, so if you go to the second, Unida.
This one?
Yeah. So since we were doing distance learning, they still did, they did active, assignments with, paper and pencil. And what we did is I take a picture of it, upload it, and then just write your reflection. So this is, I didn't set it up from the very beginning. We created the portfolio as we went through the units and the assignments. And then I just, let them, just to make it more personal, like this student added a GIF. So the more personal they make it, the more meaningful and powerful the portfolio becomes. So it is still, work in progress for me, for my classes for next year, but I feel confident that this is going to be powerful for students to use and teachers.
Yeah, I agree. So here's an example from my classroom. Again, I teach computer science, and some of the curriculum that I use is already set up step by step and is self-paced. And so that lends itself really well to keeping a journal of learning, so to speak, or a portfolio. This is an example from a student. So what I would do is, well, first of all, Google Sites is super easy to use. And the way I had students set up their portfolios at the very beginning of the semester is I had them create all these different pages, which were the major units that we were going to complete over the course of the year. Now, it turned out because of distance learning, we didn't get to some of this, but we're on the very bottom page. But this is one way that you could think about organizing your portfolio, is to set up a virtual table of contents for students so they can see, oh, we're going to actually be doing all of this stuff. So it's not just something you're telling them, but you're actually having them create the book, so to speak, of their portfolio. And then as you go through each unit or each project, then you have them fill it in. What I would do with my students is I would have them take a screenshot of a lesson they completed and then reflect on that and write a summary, not only of what they learned, but also some sort of personal comment about it, whether they liked it or didn't like it, whether they felt they were successful or not successful, whether they're having trouble and maybe why. Because all those types of reflections down the line, once they look back at it, can be very informative for them and be those components of their social emotional learning. So if they're learning how to understand the connection between what they're doing and what they're going through, like maybe they reflect on their in their portfolio that they were having trouble with a particular unit or a particular lesson because of some family issue or something else. But then they're maybe also writing that, well, my teacher told me that if I just don't do my work, I'm not going to get a good grade. So I decided just to try and figure it out. And then I ended up being successful. They're going to start seeing that their attitudes have a big impact on their ability to learn. Once you can train them to think metacognitively about that kind of commentary. And so again, this student is a 7th grader. So he tended to skip that part, that reflective part. Maybe that's not in a lot of students' kitchens, but nonetheless, you can throw it out there in front of them, try to have them do it. You can see that some of his entries are quite long and they're pretty well written too. So that's just one possibility. Now, one benefit we're going to talk about later is the benefits of doing this for all stakeholders. And the benefit for me as a teacher, setting up a portfolio like this, is that it's super easy for me to grade. Very easy to look up, very easy to, at a glance, know if the student is doing what they should be doing over the course of a month, maybe 2-month-long project. Brenda, let's go to the next slide, huh? You're muted, Brenda.
Sorry, I was answering, I was typing in the chat.
Oh.
They can always go back and just revisit the examples. So yeah, let's move on to the next one.
I haven't even looked at the chat yet, sorry.
It's okay.
You take this one and I'll take a look at the chat.
Yes. So since we were in distance learning pretty much, last school year, something that we really, another tool that we really used was Screencastify to create how to do videos for students. In person, it's a little bit easier, to walk students through the process of getting started in creating their digital portfolios. But, distance learning, it was a lot more challenging. So we really relied on how-to videos. So Eric just, just added his how-to video for his computer science for you guys to take a look at, just, in your own time. And I just put mine. Mine is in Spanish because I teach Spanish in this class, and that I used portfolios with is a native class. So my instructions are in Spanish, but you can take a look at it. And also, now that we're going back to in-person instruction, we're still going to be using how to do videos because students, it's just an extra tool that students can have that they can just go back and revisit and maybe there is something that they missed in class, so they can always go back and use it. So if you guys want to, if you're not sure how to use Screencastify, Eric and I can help you as well.
Absolutely. So we'll leave that. You said we'll just leave that for them to check out on their own time. Cool. So let's go to the next slide. Oops. Okay, so that's a basic look at student portfolios. I hope we were able to answer the questions in the chat. If not, definitely hit us up at the end if we missed your question. Sorry about that. But social emotional learning, what is it? I'm sure we've all heard of it. I'm sure we all probably have a very basic but good understanding of what it is. Here, if you need or would like to read a quote that describes social emotional learning, here's one. We won't read it for you. We know you're all very capable. But basically, it's all of the things a student puts into practice to create that healthy identity for themselves. We took this quote from a website called the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. So you can see it up at the top right there. It's called SEL. That's where most of our quotations come from. We thought that we'd just keep it simple and draw from one source, but of course there are many. So again, if you have any knowledge or expertise you'd like to share in this area about what it is, what it looks like, how to think about it, please do share that. We'd love to hear from you. So this is something I think is very handy, and this is kind of the crux of our presentation right here. This is from that website, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, Emotional Learning. It's their framework. And so we believe, after Brendan and I talked about this for quite a while, after we realized that we're both using portfolios and both want to continue using them and making them even more powerful, we started thinking about the connection between portfolios and SEL. And we came to the conclusion that these two categories, particularly self-awareness and self-management, are definitely impacted and benefited from students keeping portfolios. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next 5-10 minutes. So again, that's the orange sections. And you can see that the ripples, the circles, as they widen out, start from the classroom, go to schools and families and communities. And we believe that portfolios are an excellent way to access social emotional learning across all of those diverse environments, because portfolios, students of any age can practice keeping them and maintaining them, and basically all cultural students from any cultural context can also easily understand and begin to maintain their own portfolio.
So yes, just like Gary said, portfolios. So how do we how do we use them to support self-awareness and self-management? So self-awareness, the ability to understand one's emotions and thoughts, values, and how they influence behavior across context. And then self-management, abilities to manage emotion, thoughts, behavior, effectively in a different situation, and how to achieve goals and aspirations. So when students are allowed to choose assignments that they want to include in their portfolio and then write a reflection and then about that assignment, maybe they didn't do that well, or they thought they were going to do better, but they didn't, and they reflect on the reason why. Maybe because we were in distance learning in COVID, maybe family members were sick, they had to help them. When they go back and read those reflections and they think about this, like, well, yes, I didn't do this, I didn't do as I thought I was going to do, as well as I thought I was going to do, but this is the reason why. Well, I can do better next time. So students are going to be able to just to really become aware that, yes, sometimes it's not the circumstances that they are in may not be the best, but they can also have, but those reflections, they are going to be able to think and reflect and be able to, or at least try to control their behavior, their emotions. Because as we all know, emotions, they can, if they're positive emotions, feelings, they're going to help them to learn. But if they're negative, then they're going to set them back. So just
Yeah,
go
and
ahead.
so the converse is true also, right, Brenda? So if a student's going through a hard time, maybe put in the reflection in their portfolio that, hey, you know what, I talked with my teacher recommended that I go to tutoring. So I didn't really want to do that, but I did it and I ended up getting a B. They're going to be able to see the connection between positive actions that they take and positive behaviors that they model and their success in school. Also, they'll be able to see, you know, what you were just talking about, like if they were going through problems, those might have been impacting their ability to succeed also.
Absolutely. And this is a tool that they can just draw information from. Okay, what did I do to get an A in this, you know, assignment? Oh, well, I went to tutoring, you know, the teacher suggested to go to tutoring. Oh, we did a group assignment or a group study together. So that could be another way.
Or they might realize that they just really have a natural affinity for this particular topic,
Yes.
right? They might realize, hey, I remember this project. Wow, I did really good on it. Oh yeah, that's because I really loved what we were doing. So, and students can forget those kind of things as they go through. And that's why a portfolio can be hypothetically really, really valuable for students to look back on. So just drilling down a little bit into each of these. So we're talking about self-awareness, self-management, self-awareness. Some of the interchangeable phrases that we're talking about having growth mindset, self-efficacy, student agency, basically students learning how to exert control over their own learning, over their own attitudes, over their own beliefs, over their own motivation. So reflecting on how they're doing it, and the connections between their feelings and their success can be very, very powerful, and portfolios can provide that.
And if they keep them throughout the years, then they can see that it's a process. It's not I'll start and I'm finishing in a couple hours. It's a process, so they can see the process.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, totally. And so this is the other arm of that self-management. Not only self-awareness was one of the CSEL 5 critical components, but self-management. So setting goals, achieving goals, disciplining oneself, organizing, planning, that type of thing. So students can begin to see at the middle school level and then progressively as they get older, the effect that these types of behaviors have on their success. Not only will they be able to see, if they keep a portfolio, all of the work that they did, which is interesting in and of itself, but then the reflective piece, that's really the critical part of what we're talking about, that students need to reflect on what they're doing. And the fact that it'll all be in one place makes it very convenient for them to access it later. And students in our district, in Paris Union, they get a Chromebook at the beginning of 7th grade, and then they keep that Chromebook until they graduate high school. So hypothetically, our students could be keeping an online portfolio with the same device, which doesn't really matter, but for 6 years, they'll have the same account. Teachers all through those 6 years can be asking them to add to their portfolio. And ultimately, hopefully, students will understand that they can add to their portfolio themselves. They don't have to wait for a prompt from the teacher to add to their portfolio. And I was trying to get that across to my students. I had limited success with that with the middle school students so far, but we'll see next year. I hope there's always room to improve. Hopefully more students will take me up on that the portfolio is theirs. The portfolio is theirs, and I'm maybe requiring some things, but they can go above and beyond that. Anything that they want to do, they can add. They can even have whole personal sections of their portfolio that have nothing to do with school if they wanted to.
So benefits for all.
Benefits.
Go ahead. No.
We're going to talk just for a few minutes about how this is a win-win for everybody involved. Students, teachers, paras, admin, starting with students. Hopefully we've already made this point. If we haven't, we probably missed something. But yeah, we really think that it ultimately and primarily it's in the student's best interest that we encourage them to keep a portfolio.
Yeah, and then if you start with the why you want them to have a portfolio and the impact that it's going to have in their learning and how they're going to be able to develop and improve skills that they're going to need throughout their lives, I think you get more buy-in rather than like presenting the tool. Okay, this is a Google site, and so starting with the why, I think you will get more buy-in from the students.
Absolutely. For parents, if you're like us, you have a student information system that parents can tap into 24/7. We use Infinite Campus, but Infinite Campus can provide limited information. And then sometimes if you're using Google Classroom, parents can go over there and they can see assignments that are posted and they can see due dates. But well beyond both of those windows into how a student is performing in class, if a student is keeping a portfolio and the parent can easily see and can compare what's in the portfolio to what's being assigned, to what the outstanding assignments are, and will know exactly how much or how little students are doing, as long as teachers are communicating what students need to do for their portfolio, then parents have an immediate and very detailed picture of how their students are doing in class, beyond just a number, beyond just a grade, beyond just a mark of incomplete. They can see exactly what student has in the portfolio and what they don't have.
Yeah, it's at the tip of their fingers. Even if they want to print it out, something that, oh, I want to hold on to this, they can still print it out, you know how parents are. So.
And that's another thing is if you're into badging at all, giving badges, digital badges, that's something that students can post on their portfolios very easily. So it's another cool thing.
For educators, something that when we were planning for this presentation, we thought about how useful this and powerful this tool can be, in particular with for special ed teachers. In my case, I can only speak for myself. Sometimes when we have those IEPs, teachers will request work samples from students, and sometimes what the answer is, oh, I don't have it. I gave it back to the student and the student doesn't have it. So this would be a great tool to just have the student keep their assignments, and then when the special ed teacher requests sample work, it's right there. So you will always have something to showcase from your class.
It's always 24/7. So again, it can be used for grading. I use it for grading, especially if a project needs to be tracked over many weeks or even a couple or 3 months. Portfolios are a great way to see how students are progressing through each phase of the project. And then finally, admin can also access the portfolio. They can be used for parent-teacher conferences, for events like back to school night or other special events. They can be used for student-led conferences as well. Really, there's maybe no end to the creative ways that a portfolio can be used or applied in a beneficial way for all stakeholders. And can't really think of a downside beyond maybe some, well, I mean, our district and Google controls cybersecurity issues. So maybe there's a little bit of work that we'd have to do for making sure students aren't posting anything they shouldn't be posting in their portfolio, but that's just part of an ongoing effort to make sure that they're being good digital citizens, right? And so we would have those concerns with, well, we have those concerns in the classroom now. Yeah, we think it's just all an upside, a win-win-win for everybody. If and especially hypothetically, now most of what we're saying is hypothetical. Like Brenda was saying at the beginning, we've had some experience with using portfolios, and we're basically imagining the power and the benefit of using them even more extensively, and how much more powerful they could be if all their teachers required students to keep a portfolio. And Google Sites is such a great, I keep saying Google, and my Google Assistant keeps popping up on my phone. It's like, yes, what can I do to help you? What was I saying? Oh, that if all student teachers were using portfolio, students could literally, we'll get into this now. I guess we could jump into probably just some discussion. It's time for play, time for questions and discussion. Unless Brenda, you wanted to jump in there?
No, there are actually two questions in the chat, so I can read it. I think these are great questions, and
sure,
we can address them. And then if anybody else wants to jump in with answers, that would be great too. But the first one said, Annette says that, so since parents and others see it, do students hold back, especially middle school and high school students? How do you approach that?
That's a great question.
And the second one is, what about confidentiality?
Those are both great questions. I base saying that they're great on the fact that I don't have a good answer for that. Either one.
I can speak for myself in regards to students holding back, especially at the middle school. I think high school, once they are, sophomores, juniors, they're a little bit more open. Freshmen could be a little bit more, they could, yeah, definitely, I can see them holding back. Since this is my official first year using Google portfolios, I told them that the audience was going to be themselves, parents, because if they requested for me to show them, or if I needed to show them during teacher-parent conferences, then I was going to do that, and then me. So we don't make them public. So whoever has a link, they share with me, they share the link. And then from there, I can share with their parents, or in this case, with the teachers. So telling them or giving them like heads up, yes, not just me I'm not the only one that is gonna see your portfolio. There might be, there might be other people that will wanna see it. Letting them know ahead of time, I think that helped. This year, it might be a little bit different, not sure.
And you could emphasize probably that I, the teacher, am primarily going to be the one looking at it, which is going to be true most of the time. But again, just prepping them and saying that it's possible other people will be looking at it, I think is a good way to go.
Yeah, it's the same thing like with Flipgrid videos. They don't want to show their face, and they don't want people to, to watch their videos and give them feedback. But if you tell them why from the very beginning, and you tell them basically the expectations, this is what could happen, this is what's going to happen, and just walk them through the process, most of the students are okay, and they will be willing to work with you.
I'm just answering a question in the chat right now. Tracy asked a question about creating a template Google site and sharing it like you make a copy of a doc, like you do with Google Docs. And I'm just responding that I'm not sure. You can create a template site. I'm just not sure if you can create it in a way that students can then, if you can share a version with every student and then have them fill it in on their own.
Good.
And I'm just saying, I prefer creating a screencast that walks them through creating the template themselves. So if you go back in the presentation and watch the link for the computer science screencast, that's me taking students at the beginning of the semester through creating all the pages that they'll need for that whole semester. It's really not hard. It really, Google Sites is very intuitive to use. Students understand it really well. So I prefer just making a screencast. But if you do figure out that answer, I would love to hear from you down the line, and you could email me or Brenda maybe and say, hey, I figured out how to do this with a template and sharing it with all the students. That would be
Yes.
wonderful.
That would be great. There's another question. What suggestions do you have for middle school students, especially sixth graders?
And sorry, Brenda, what was that?
So there is a question. What suggestions do you have for middle school students, especially sixth graders?
Oh, I didn't see that one. Huh. Who asked that question? Sandra. Sandra, what do you mean? I mean,
Yeah. Hi, Eric. My name is Sandra
Hi.
Turner.
Hi, Sandra.
I teach at Diamond Valley Middle School in Hemet Unified School District, and I've been teaching middle school for 20 some odd years or so, but I've been with the district for 23. But anyways, this coming year, I'm back to teaching sixth grade history. So history is the main deal I teach. And so with the sixth graders that we have coming in, you know, they haven't been in the classroom for over a year, okay,
Right,
because of the
right.
pandemic, and with everything going digital, and my school is an Avid school, so the digital portfolios kind of fall into place of what we're trying to accomplish, where everything, less paperwork, basically. Okay,
Yeah.
and with sixth graders, you know, many of them have been coddled since elementary school, and I don't coddle. I barely hug my own kids. No, just kidding. I do hug my kids.
You don't play.
I don't play. Nope, I do not. And the one thing I find very what attracts me using the digital portfolios is the fact that it does give the kids creativity, that space to be very creative. But like what I'm trying to accomplish with my sixth graders is certain requirements that they should have in their digital portfolio. You know, it was something that when we had it on paper where they had to have A, B, and C done. For some kids who are not tech savvy on this, how can we help them with that part of doing the digital portfolios? And then on top of that, what should be the main things that they should have on their portfolios? Because some kids don't open up. So that's another thing. Many of them are what I would say are going to be recovering from this whole pandemic deal, and may have experienced anxiety and a little form of PTSD from all this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, as far as what I think should be required of students to put in their portfolio, I think that's definitely just dependent on the teacher and on the curriculum and what you're trying to accomplish. That's what you ask them to do is going to be reflective of what you're teaching them, right? If you want it to be the kind of thing that we're hoping portfolios can be, what I would suggest that you do is for everything you ask them to post, you also ask them to reflect on it in a metacognitive way. And you say, okay, I want to hear at least one sentence about how you felt about this assignment, or I want to hear one sentence about how you think you did on this assignment, or I want to hear, some kind of personal comment, asking them to reflect on it. I think that is gonna, once that gets established, that's what you expect all the time, then it starts to become easier and easier for them to open up, because sometimes, as we all know, the first step on anything that's different is the hardest step. And once they take that first step and they realize, okay, this is not so bad, and I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing, we think that it might lead to, it being easier and easier for them to open up. And I know there's a second part to your question too, about students that aren't tech savvy. Again, I heavily I encourage everyone to use screencasts, because you can detail exactly step by step, and you can show them visually how to set up their portfolio. You can show them examples of what entries in their portfolio should look like. You're going to show them examples of the written reflection you want to see. So I think that those are invaluable, especially for students that aren't tech savvy, because you can emphasize to them, you can pause the video that I've created that shows you what to do anytime you want. You can pause the video, you can go do the step and Google Sites that it's showing you, and then come back to the video, watch another 20 seconds, pause it, go back to Google Sites to do that step. You know, you can train them to use videos wisely and for their own benefit by, because a lot of students in this day and age, they just want to either skip the video or they want to play it at double speed or they want to play it at some higher speed, you know. So teaching them, make your screencast short to help them out, and then train them to go slowly and pause it and go back and forth between the tool that you're training them on and the video. And
Yeah.
Just one more thing, I'll let Brenda jump in there.
Go ahead.
Sue Thoughts posted some great resources for everyone just a little bit ago. Thank you for that, Sue. Appreciate that.
Oh, I was just gonna add, if you do the videos, don't make it longer than 5 minutes. And 5 minutes, you're really pushing it with middle school students. So if there is something that is gonna take you more than 5 minutes, just do a couple videos for them to watch. And then may I share how I'm gonna introduce portfolios this coming school year? I'm gonna go ahead, most of my students are 7th graders, so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce digital portfolios in a fun way. I am not gonna introduce them with academic content. So it could be, we could, I was thinking about their favorite movie, their favorite cartoon, something that they like, so they can post, they can create their portfolio, and then they can show you their favorite cartoon show. Why is it their favorite? Who is their favorite character? So if you introduce something new to them with content that is relevant to them in a fun way, I think they're going to be able to grasp the idea. And then when you start teaching your content, they already know, oh, I need to post, I need to do the reflection, or I need to click here to upload an image. So it just makes it a little bit easier for them to understand the new tool.
Great. Thank you so much for all the information for today. It is 10:20. I just want to remind our speakers and our participants, our next session will get started at 10:30. So if you want to take one last question, and if you want, Brenda and Eric, if you want to put your email in the chat, that way everybody, if they didn't get their questions answered, they can go ahead and possibly hit you up.
Yeah, sure. There's my email. And also I saw a comment above, Janice. Thank you for your comment. I'll go double check the sharing settings on Logan's portfolio. Were you able to open any of the other ones, or do they all say the same thing? But I can definitely go double check on that. I don't know. Yeah, I was a little worried about that too, because since I'm not the owner of the document, it was shared with me as an editor, and then I tried to change the sharing settings.
You can make a copy.
You can make a copy, right? Yep, that's what I can do for sure. So Janice, definitely thank you for the comment. We'll work on that. Thanks everybody for being here.
Guys.
Again, if we missed your question, really sorry about that. Please do email us or make a Twitter comment or something. We'll definitely look for those and try to answer your questions. And we would love to be your partners in this experiment this school year. So please do stay in touch as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Eric and Brenda. Have a lovely day. We'll see you at session number 2.
Will do.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. I'll go ahead.